Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? God damn, I love that. I love it. 5 freaking stars. Hey friends, how's it going? My name is Gabby. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing a very exciting reading vlog because I'm going to be reading books that you think that I'm going to give 5 stars. So I recently saw my friend Carrie make this video. You might know her channel. Her channel's called Carrie Can Read. She also has a channel called Carrie Cakes, and she is just one of my favorite booktubers out there. Like, she is so creative. I just really love her energy. I love her vlog style. She's such an inspiration to me. She's like my fellow Capricorn queen. And so when I saw her make this video, I knew that I wanted to try and do something similar because I thought, what a fun concept that is to try and ask you, like the people who know my reading taste the best, to ask you for some recommendations for books that you think that I could give 5 stars. So I ended up asking on my Instagram, I asked on my YouTube community post, and then I also asked on my Patreon, and I got a number of book recommendations. Like, there are so many books that I got recommended, some that I've never heard of before and some that I am more familiar with. There were literally over probably like 20 to 30 books that I could have chosen to be in this video because there were so many good recommendations. So I ended up choosing 7 books that I'm going to be reading for today's video. 5 of these books will be included in like the YouTube part of this video, and then for my Patreon, I'm going to do the extended version of this vlog with 2 additional books. And so the Patreon extended will have all 7 of them. And the way that I went about choosing these books, I ended up choosing some of the books that were mentioned the most often, but then I also chose some books that just sounded the most intriguing to me personally, and like with my personal reading taste, what I was most in the mood for, and what I was able to get my hands on, because I actually was able to get some of these books from my library, which ended up working out perfectly. But the first book that I'll be reading for this video is actually going to be The Measure, and this book was mentioned 2 different times. It was mentioned once on my Patreon and once on my Instagram, and this is one that I had actually never even heard anything about until earlier this year. I know my friend Kayla over from Books and Lala, she actually just read this for a video and she really enjoyed it. The premise sounds so interesting, and I really love books like this because the premise is that like everybody in the world one day gets this little box delivered on their doorstep, and in the box is a string that will determine how long you have left to live. Books like this sound so freaking interesting. Like, I love a thought-provoking premise like this, so I can't wait to read this one. The second book that I'll be reading for this video is going to be The Watchers by A.M. Shine, and this one was actually mentioned in 2 different comments on my YouTube community post. And this is one that I have been super intrigued by anyways. Like, this book was probably already going to end up being on my TBR and one that I've been hearing about. I actually first heard about this book from my friend Mike either last year or the year before, and he said that this is a horror book that he thought that I could enjoy. So like, it was already on my radar, and this is definitely one that I would have personally picked up on my own even if it wasn't recommended in this video. So thank you for that recommendation. It's about a girl who gets stuck at this place that's like a forest that's not on any map, and then the people at this place are like, yeah, you can't see them, but they can see you. And like, who's they? I don't know who they are. And then the third book that I'll be reading for this video is going to be The Haunting of Velkwood. This is one that was mentioned 1 time on my Instagram and then 1 time on my YouTube. And this is another one that I had not really heard anything about until very recently when my friend Kayla over from Books and Lala, she recently read this and gave it 5 stars. So then this book definitely went on my radar after that. And then after seeing it recommended 2 different times, I was like, okay. I don't really know too much about this one either. It just says a suburban ghost story about a small town that trapped 3 young women who must confront the past if they're going to have a future. The 4th book that I'll be reading for this video is going to be Convenience Store Woman, and this is another one that was mentioned 2 different times, once on my Instagram and once on my YouTube. I was able to get this copy from my library, and this book is so short. It's so tiny. It's only about 160 pages, and from what I've heard about it, I feel like this is going to be one that will have a lot of really good commentary. Another book that I'll be reading for this video is actually going to be The Good Part, and this book was actually only mentioned 1 time. It was from a YouTube community post comment from Mel. I read the premise for this and I was like, you know what, Mel? This sounds so good. Even though it was only mentioned the 1 time, I really love the premise for this, and so that's the main reason why I decided to pick it up, and it was available at my library. But this one sounds so cool because it's about this woman who is like living in her 20s, and she is just not having the best time with like the dating scene, so she decides that she wants to skip to the good part. And so this is kind of like a time travel-y romance. So like, it just sounds like something that I would personally love to read because I love like time travel-y romance. I think that's so fun. And then for the Patreon extended portion of this video, I'm also going to be reading Curse of the Reaper and Strange Sally Diamond. Strange Sally Diamond is another one of those that were mentioned 2 different times. One of them was on the YouTube community post, and then the other one was on my Patreon specifically. My friend Megan over on Patreon recommended me this one, and this one is a thriller that I am very intrigued by. I think this one published last year, and I've been hearing quite a bit about this thriller ever since it came out last year. And then I also am going to be reading Curse of the Reaper because my friend friend Casey over on Patreon, she actually recommended this one, and even though this one was only mentioned the one time, I was like, I'm so intrigued by the premise of this book, and my library had a copy, so I was like, why not include it in this video? Because the premise for this says Scream meets The Shining. Like, I'm sorry, what? And it says this is a page-turning horror tale about an aging actor who's haunted by the slasher movie villain he brought to life. So if you're watching this on my YouTube channel and you would like to see the Patreon extended version of this vlog where I also include these two books, I will have that linked down below in the description. But otherwise, these are the 5 books that I'm going to be reading in this reading vlog. But before we do jump into the reading vlog, I just wanted to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, which is Aura, because I don't know if you've ever tried to do a Google search of your own name, but I have, and let me tell you, it's a little bit uncomfortable to know all of the different information that exists about anybody online, because data brokers will sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anybody else who might try to target you. Your full name, your email, your home address, your health records, your relatives, it's all out there. And that's why I've been using Aura, because Aura will show me which data brokers have been selling my information, and they will automatically submit opt-out requests for me. And cleaning up my information online not only helps me, reduce the amount of spam that I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use this information to try and access my social media accounts or my bank accounts or other sensitive information. And I don't know if you saw this recently, but AT&T recently revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all of this for me, and best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. I know that if my information got compromised in that AT&T data breach, that I wouldn't have to worry because Aura is always on and they're always working to keep me safe. I value my privacy and I value yours. So you can go to aura.com/gabbyreads to start your 2-week free trial, or you can use the link down in my description. And thank you so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get to the reading vlog. Hello, how's it going? I wanted to update you because I have started on The Measure. I am now 176 pages in. I just hit about the halfway point in this book, and holy shit, I am loving this so much. Like, this has been so promising so far. I'm feeling like this really could be a 5-star read for me, and the fact that we're starting off this video on such a positive note is such a huge win for me. Like, you have no idea how much I needed this. Dude, this premise is so up my alley. Like, this is something that I could see myself writing, something like this. Like, this is the kind of story that really inspires me creatively. I feel like this is a story that is just so thought-provoking. I think it's one of those books that's like the perfect book for a book club discussion because there's so many things to talk about with this book. Like, I could write a whole essay about my thoughts on this so far. And the reason why this book is so interesting is because this is a story that follows a few different characters, and it's taking place in this world where these people one day randomly, all of these boxes show up at people's homes, and inside the box it says the measure of your life lies within. Everywhere around the world, anybody over the age of 22 has received a box, and in that box there's a string, and so depending on the length of your string will determine how much of your life you have left to live before you die. So literally this causes chaos around the world, because some people, they open their box and they have like the tiniest little string, and then some people open the box and they have like a really long string, and they're starting to wonder, like, could this be real? Is this aliens? Is this God? Who could have done this? They think maybe the government is like trying to set them up. It's like a lot of conspiracy and chaos, of course, because what the heck? And then they start to like, they develop this like science where they can like measure out the different strings to see exactly how many years people have left. So like some of the ones with the really small string, they have like 10 years or even like 1 year left potentially. And it's just fascinating how this affects people and how like some people are deciding like not to look at the string at all. Like they're deciding not to even open the box and they don't want to know. And so of course this book has so much thought-provoking discussion around, something like this. Like, would you want to know how much longer you would have left to live? Like, if you were given the option to know, would you want to know? But then it's also so interesting how it's affecting the lives of different people. Like, they're showing how, people that have the longer strings, they're getting more comfortable doing more like risky things because they know that they're not going to die young. Or like the people with the short strings, they're all starting to panic, like they're quitting their jobs, they're traveling, they're doing the things that they always wanted to do because they now realize that they don't have that much time left. But I like that we're following a number of different characters, and we're following some people who have really long strings and some people who have really short strings. I like the variation too with some of the people that we're following, because we're following some young guys who are in the military. We're following this one guy who's about to be running for president, so like that's an interesting perspective, even though he's a piece of shit, clearly, as most politicians are. I like that most of this too is taking place in New York City, and most of the people that we're following in this story, they all live live in New York City. I like that in this universe, you know, like they start these different support groups for like people who have short strings, like people who are trying to come to terms with the fact that they're probably gonna die soon. It's also just so fascinating to me how this has been affecting the society and how the government is trying to go about it. Because like in some governments in different countries, they're doing this thing where like you were required by law to like report to the government how long your string is. And then there are some places where like you don't even have to look at the string if you don't want to. I like how this book is talking about how like now it's becoming this whole different level of like discrimination that people can do, like based on the length of your string. It could determine whether or not somebody wants to, you know, be in a relationship with you or like potentially even hire you for a job. Like sometimes they're saying now, like depending on the length of your string, maybe you won't qualify for certain loans because like the banks know that you're not going to be able to pay it back before you die. Like it's literally crazy. The chapters are really short and the story is just flying, but I also feel emotionally connected to like most of these characters. I mean, the fact that we're following about like 8 different characters and I do feel emotionally attached to almost every single one of them, I think that's wild and that's very impressive of this author, because I feel like sometimes in stories like these it's hard to connect to any characters, but for me to be connecting with almost all of them. There's this one character named Hank and he was a doctor working in the ER and he's definitely like one of my favorite characters in the book so far. I also really love the characters Jack and Javier. They're like the 2 young guys that are working in the military and they were in military school together. I really love reading from their perspectives. And then I'm also loving to read from the point of view of Nina and Maura, and they're the 2, you know, that are the lesbian couple, and like their perspectives are also so good. Like I love almost every single perspective we're getting in this book. It doesn't feel like any of the perspectives are like unnecessary or like boring. Like it's keeping the story moving along. It's so interesting. And so I'm loving this so much so far. I wanted to update you before I just fly through this and finish it tonight because I'm loving it so much that I might try to finish it tonight. Like I don't know, it's already 7 o'clock at night. I haven't even eaten dinner yet or anything. I've actually been taking like hella notes on this book too because, you know, as I said, there's a lot of plot happening and a lot of interesting things that I want to come back to and think about more. I love too that this book started on this quote that says, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" Like, goddamn, I love that. I love it. So yeah, it's safe to say I'm having a great time. This is looking to be a 5-star read potentially for me. I am so invested. It's now 10 o'clock at night. I just finished reading The Measure and like, bitch, are you kidding me? Yeah, 5 stars. 5 freaking stars. I love this. The ending made me cry. Did you see that? Oh my god, I did not think the ending was gonna make me cry. Something happened at the ending of this book and I knew it was gonna happen and I still cried. Oh my god, there was so much to love about this book. I wasn't expecting to feel as attached to the characters as I ended up feeling because, you know, there were so many characters in this book and at first it was kind of like overwhelming to keep track of them all, but I really felt connected to like all of the different characters in this book. I loved getting so many different perspectives on like how people felt about this string situation. I really appreciate with this book how this book addresses so many different ideas when it comes to the strings, you know, because anything that you might think as a reader like, oh, but how is this going to affect this kind of person? How is this going to affect politics? How is this going to affect like different things? I feel like this book does a really great job at addressing all of those kinds of scenarios, which is so cool. It just made this book so thought-provoking and made you think about like what you would do in a certain situation. It just felt so real at times because like it would talk about how like people would speculate over like celebrities, like how long is their string, and how like fans felt like entitled to know like what the string length was of like their favorite celebrities, and then like how they started making dating apps just for like people with short strings, and you could like filter the dating app based on like how long people's strings are. There was just so many like creative and interesting things in this story. I really feel like this author just like did so much with this idea and I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the recommendation because wow, we're starting off this video with a 5-star. This could not be going better. This really does remind me of that one book that I read years ago now that's called The Immortalists, and that's a book that follows these 4 siblings, I believe, and then in that book all the siblings find out the exact day that they're gonna die, and then we follow like each one of the 4 siblings as they try to like like figure out how to navigate life after they know the date that they're gonna die and how that like affects them. It definitely reminds me of that. I think if you enjoyed this, you can definitely enjoy The Immortalist as well. It's so rare for me to read books like this that are so thought-provoking and so interesting that just capture my attention and like I have to finish it all within one night. It's a really great feeling, you know, it doesn't happen very often for me, so thank you for that. I have some things that I need to film and edit during the day tomorrow, but then tomorrow night I'm doing some late night reading sprints on my Patreon at like 5 o'clock. So hopefully I'll be able to get started on the next book then.
It's raining, I'm shining, still storming. Ain't love that feels so foreign, but ain't it coming for me? It's raining, I'm shining, still storming. Ain't love that feels so foreign, but ain't it coming for me? I should have something to lose, huh?
Hey, hello, it is the next day. I wanted to update you because I have started reading The Haunting of Velkwood. So last night I ended up doing some reading sprints on Patreon, and then my friend Katie was able to join me as well, so that was really fun. And then this morning I just wrapped up the booktube live show that was with Jan and with Jordaline, and that was also a really fun time. It's always good to hang out with them. But anyways, last night I did end up starting on The Haunting of Velkwood, and I got 70 pages in last night. I'm just reading this one with my eyeballs. I'm not listening to the audiobook for this one, and so far it's been very interesting. This one has a premise that I feel like is kind of hard for me to try and explain. It's a very unique concept and I'm really enjoying it so far. But basically in this story, we're following this character. Her name is Talitha, which is a really unique name. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody named Talitha. Talitha, she grew up on this street where like the street has essentially disappeared, and they ended up naming the street Velkwood after her and her family. Like her last name is Velkwood, and they named the street Velkwood. But it's so hard to explain because the street, it disappeared, but basically what that means is that like the 8 houses in a row on that street, it's like they all went under some kind of like dome or something. Like they're still there, but like they can't access it anymore. It kind of reminds me like of a little bit of like Under the Dome by Stephen King or something, right? Where like the whole like little city is like under a dome. It's kind of like that, but just on this little strip of road with these 8 houses. It honestly kind of reminds me of WandaVision. It's kind of giving WandaVision so far. So naturally, you know, I'm picturing Elizabeth Olsen as the lead in this book, as one does. And so anyways, we're following this character Talitha and her history with this little strip of houses. Like not only is it where she grew up, but it's also like her best friends used to live next door, like these girls Grace and Brett. But the 3 girls, Grace, Brett, and Talitha, like they were able to like get out of there before the street disappeared, but her mom and her sister, she thinks they got left behind and that they could still be like trapped in there. And so this story is about this guy, I think his name was Jack, I can't remember, but there's this guy who he's gonna be paying Talitha $5,000 to go back in and try to like get information about this place and like how it could exist. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Annihilation too, now that I'm saying it out loud. Like the idea of this like Area X or something, right? That like nobody can get into, but there's only a certain amount of people who can actually go in. And I'm guessing it's because she's originally from there and because she escaped it herself, like she has the ability to go back in. So then this story is about how her character is gonna be going back in to this thing. I don't know how to describe it, and I don't know if it's like making sense when I'm trying to explain it because I don't even know if I fully understand it myself, but it's very interesting. And there was even a moment at like the 50-page mark where there was a little bit of a plot twist already, and like I don't know if it was a plot twist, but it was just a moment where like my jaw like hit the floor. I was like, whoa, like I didn't see that coming. Like that was really cool. So I'm already like really invested. I think there's also like the potential for like a queer relationship to be happening in this book because there is some tension between this girl Talitha and her friend Brett. That was like this girl that she grew up with. There's like some kind of history there with them, and I am just eating that shit up so far. Oh my god, the tension between them is really wild so far. They haven't been speaking to each other much, I guess, in the last couple of years, but the way that she talks about the history with this girl, I feel like there's more to them than just friendship. You know, like something has happened between these girls, and I'm really invested in whatever is happening between Talitha and Brett so far. So yeah, it's been a really great time so far. I'm really enjoying this. I feel like it's very unique. I think today, you know, it's just a cozy Sunday. It's been raining, but it does make for the perfect reading weather.
Down by the sea, at the edge of
film a quick update because it's been many hours. It's been like the entire day. It's already 7 o'clock at night. I am curled up in bed for the rest of the night and I am planning to finish this one. I got so distracted earlier today, but now I am 146 pages in. Earlier today, I decided to like go out to one of my local coffee shops instead of making coffee at home. And then I ended up getting a Red Bull charger instead and I got a scone. But dude, I'm so upset because they changed their scone recipe. And so it wasn't nearly as good as it usually is. And I'm really upset about it because this is like my favorite place to get a scone. But then afterwards I got home, me and my sister were hanging out. I got distracted by Sporkle, okay? It always happens now. Me and my sister were playing one of the Sporkle, you know, Taylor Swift games. So we got distracted for a few hours. Since the last time that I updated you, there has been some crazy shit that has been happening in this book. There have been 2 different moments that made my mouth go like open in shock. Like what? I did not see that coming. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like plot twists, but it's just things I guess that I wasn't expecting to happen that I was kind of shocked by. So yeah, maybe it is a plot twist, I don't know. But like I just love the direction this book is going in. I love the vibes. There's actually some really creepy atmosphere happening now where I'm kind of like wondering like what the hell is going on. It's like an interesting mystery too. And oh my god, the romance between these freaking girls, dude, I am so here for this. There was one line that I tabbed because I was like, I love that and I wish I had written that myself, when it says, "She tasted of roses and midnight, of everything I'd hoped for, of everything I never wanted to stop." Dude, I love that. She tasted of roses and midnight. Oh my god, like that is poetry right there. So this is going very well so far. I only have about 100 pages left and like depending on how these last 100 pages go, I could totally see myself giving this 4 or 5 stars. Just finished reading The Haunting of Velkwood, and this was such a unique horror story. I even struggle to call this horror though, if I'm being honest. Like I don't even know what genre this book would fall into for me, because it's definitely like, it's supernatural, you know, like it has all the ghost elements, but I don't think this book was necessarily like scary or creepy, really. There were definitely a few moments, like I was talking about in my last update, where there were like some creepy things happening. I don't know, I guess it would be horror, but for some reason this doesn't feel like the typical horror book to me. I feel like I'm probably gonna give this one 4 stars. I don't think it was the perfect book for me, unfortunately, but I think a 4 stars is still a really great rating. I still had a really fun time with this. I think the only reason what's holding me back from wanting to give this 5 stars is that, I don't know, the ending got a little bit repetitive for me, especially in those last 100 pages, because, you know, I do feel like a lot of this story is about this character, Talitha, going to this place, like this Velkwood street where she grew up, and a lot of the story is about that, and like there's some really interesting things that happen, but I feel like the story gets repetitive after a while, you know, because she's having a lot of the same conversations. There's a lot of people like telling her like, you need to be the one to fix this, and then her being like, but how am I supposed to do it? It was really fun at first, but then I feel like towards the end it just started to get repetitive with the conversation she would be having. Like I was like, I've read this so much before, like I'm ready to just get on with it. But there was another thing about the ending that I thought was pretty surprising. Like I don't know why I didn't see it coming personally. So there was something about the plot at the end that I was really into. Then I also think some of the ending for me, it got a little bit like hard to follow what was happening. I feel like the author was trying to do this thing where she was like interweaving some like flashbacks, but sometimes it would be hard for me to tell when we were in a flashback and when we were in the present day. I don't know, like maybe I'm just stupid and I wasn't paying close enough attention, but I just feel like the writing there, especially in the second half, got a little bit confusing at times with the way the flashbacks would weave into the story. But gosh, can I just say, this is definitely one of my like favorite sapphic relationships that I've ever read in a horror book. Like I adored Brett and Talitha. Oh my god. They were so cute. Like what a way for me to kick off Pride Month. I had no idea that this book would be queer when I picked it up and I'm so happy about it. They were genuinely so cute. Like I would read an entire romance novel about their characters. I just loved them together. But yeah, overall, I think this was 4 stars. I can totally see why people are absolutely loving this and giving this 5 stars. Like I totally get it. I don't think it was like the perfect book for me, especially because even in those last 100 pages, I kept getting like distracted by my phone or like looking at other things. Like I wasn't as in it as I was at the beginning, if that makes sense. But it was still a really good time and I appreciate the recommendation because I do love books like this. I think tomorrow I'm going to get started on the good part. I think I've decided that this is the one that I want to read next. I did get this physical book from my library and then I was also able to get the audiobook from my library. So like shout out to my library for being so cool. I think tomorrow in the morning I need to get some grocery shopping done. So I think I'm going to start listening to this while I do that tomorrow morning. Hello, I I just wanted to film a quick update because I have been so busy this morning. I mean, as you probably saw from those clips, I ended up going to the grocery store. I went to both Costco and Winco. I have a bunch of groceries in the back of my car. I also decided to hit up one of my favorite coffee places on the way home. But I did want to update you because this morning I have been listening to The Good Part on audio, and I just got about 130 pages in. I'm now on chapter 15. I mean, basically what the story is about is we're following this character named Lucy. At the start of this book, she's 26 years old. She is working for some senior TV producers who she like doesn't get along with very well. I don't know, she's kind of like miserable in her life and her job. She doesn't like her roommates. Like, her roommates are always doing some stupid shit. And she's going on these awful dates with these guys who are just such losers. So she like wants to skip to the good part of her life, essentially. And she finds this like little wishing machine. And it's like one of those little like penny pressers, from what I understand, when you put in a penny and then you can make a wish and then the penny will grant you the wish. And so of course, you know, she wishes in her life that she can skip to the good part of her life. And then the next day she wakes up and she doesn't recognize the man that's sleeping in the bed with her, and she starts to freak out, and then she looks in the mirror and she notices that she looks different as well, and then she starts to put together the fact that she has essentially jumped forward in time. She's now living her life but like 16 years in the future or something like that, and now she's married to this like really handsome guy. She has a job that she actually really loves, and she has 2 children. And so, you know, I do love this trope of like a character who has either like time traveled but they're like unaware of the fact that they've time traveled. I love the like fish out of water trope where like a character just gets plopped into a world that they don't really understand, and they have to like try to learn about their life through like clues and through like asking other people for help because they don't remember anything about their life. But I also just feel like so far, I don't know, this story's just been fine for me. I'm not as obsessed with it as I was hoping to be like right off the bat. And I don't know if that's just because I'm not connecting with Lucy as a character as much, or like I don't know exactly why that is. I just feel like I've read stories like this before, and so far this one's not doing anything like super unique. I feel like so far it's been a very entertaining book. I just don't know if this is like 5-star potential for me, just because it's feeling okay so far. Like, I do like the setup, I like the characters, I like what's happening in the book, but I'm just not getting that like 5-star feeling when I'm reading this, you know? But who knows? I mean, the second half could definitely surprise me. I still have quite a bit left. I think I'm only like 40% through this on audio. I mean, this book is about like 340 pages, so I do still have about 200 pages left, so maybe my feelings can change and will change in the second half. So hopefully I can try and finish listening to this one on audio today. I actually just parked right here. I'm at the library because I need to pick up some library holds real quick, and then maybe hopefully later today I can go on a walk. I mean, it's been raining on and off pretty much all morning, but it's not raining right now, so I'm hoping that the rain will like cut it out so that I can go on a walk later. I mean, as I just said, you know, it's June and it's so rainy. Like, we've just had nothing but rain so far this month.
Waking up in my bed, you're still stuck in my head. I'm not even hungover. I wanna call your phone, tell you what you did wrong, then ask you to come over. Not very good with decisions, know what's right, but I don't listen. I don't. And I complain and dismiss it, then I keep on reminiscing. I know, baby you're bad, baby you're bad, baby you're bad, baby you're bad for business, baby you're bad, baby you're bad, baby you're bad, baby you're bad for business, baby you're bad for business. Not good with consequence. I find myself back again, crying on your shoulder. No, it's not good for me, but I still want your body. So dumb, but it's not over.
Hello, hi, it's a little bit later in the night. It's like 5 o'clock. Sorry if you can hear the dishwasher in the background, but I just turned it on. But I wanted to update you because I just finished reading The Good Part. I've had a very productive afternoon. I was able to go on a walk in the neighborhood, and I did it like just in time because it started raining again like right when I got home. And then I also made this really good dinner tonight. I made this like chicken. I tried to do like a chicken taco bowl kind of thing where I did like white rice, and then I put taco seasoning on the chicken, and then I had like fresh avocado and tomato and cilantro. It turned out really really good. Like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I'm here alone at the apartment tonight because Rachel and Obed went out to go see a movie, so I have the place to myself, but I just finished listening to the good part on audio, and I actually ended up enjoying this one quite a bit. I feel like I got more attached to the characters as the story went on, and I feel like there were some unexpected things that happened in this story that made me feel even more connected to it. Also, like, one of those stories with like the way she slowly begins to appreciate things in her life that she never thought that she could, and like it's almost like a romance, you know, between her and her husband as she's like starting to catch feelings for this guy that she married in the future. And I ended up really loving like their romance. I thought they were so cute. I loved like the bond she started to form with her children over time as well, you know, because right at the beginning she's like, oh my god, I don't even know if I want kids, and like what the heck is this? She was very flustered by the idea that her and this man had children, and like she was trying to adjust to all of these things. But like as the story progressed, like, oh my god, the bond that she had with her kids was really sweet. And I really liked the way that this story wrapped up as well, because I feel like sometimes with time travel books like this, like you never really know the direction that the ending's gonna go in. And for a little while I was kind of worried that it might go in a direction that I didn't really care for, but I actually ended up liking the ending of this a lot. I like that our character was kind of faced with like a tough choice at the end, and it kind of makes you think about like, oh, what would you do if this was your life and you had this choice to do something about it? Like, what would you do? And I feel like this one was very well written, and I really got attached to the characters as the story progressed. So I think I am gonna give this one 4 stars. I don't think it was like the perfect 5-star book for me, but I definitely see why a lot of people are really loving this one. And I'm surprised by how much I ended up enjoying it. I mean, wow, this video is going so well so far. You guys have yet to steer me wrong. The fact that I have had a 5-star and then I've had 2 4-star books, like that's amazing. I'm reading such great books that I probably never would have read if it wasn't for you. So like that's really cool. Started reading The Watchers. I actually just got to page 120, so I figured now would be a good time to update you. So this one, all I really know about it is that it's a horror novel. It's really interesting because the book opens with this prologue. We're following from the perspective of this guy named John, and the prologue was pretty long, and it was kind of creepy because it was talking about how him and his wife ended up finding this place that's like in the middle of the forest. What's weird about this forest though is that it's not on any maps. Like this place is not easily discoverable. It basically like shouldn't exist. And what's weird about this place is that it seems like no technology works. Like when people are driving down the road, their cars just seem to be breaking, like their watches stop working, their phones stop working, they don't have any service. And when their cars break down, like they have nowhere to go and they're basically just stranded out there. And so their only option is to kind of like walk through the forest trying to find help. And then there's this like little shelter that's like in the middle of the forest where this other woman named Madeline is living there. And so that was just like the prologue was kind of like introducing you to the situation. And then the main story is told from this girl Mina, and it's from her point of view. And so a similar thing kind of happens to her character because she's getting paid to transport this parrot, like this bird. And so she has it in her car, and while she's commuting there, she passes by this area where it's like a dead zone basically, and her car stops working, her phone stops working, like everything stops working technology-wise. And she's like, okay, that's weird. And so she starts walking through the forest area trying to find help, and then this lady is just like, run, run! I can hear something happening in the woods, and so she gets freaked out, and so she just runs into this place, and the woman like slams the door shut, and she finds out that there's a few people that are living in this little like sheltered place, and she says like, oh my god, they're gonna be watching us. And she's like, what are you talking about? And it's so confusing and weird and hard to understand, but she's talking about the things outside, and she's like, what things outside? And she says, I don't know what they are. They only come above ground when it's dark, and when they do, the only place we're safe from harm is in here. And she said that they don't like the light, so they have to keep like the light on them because they said as long as they can see them, they won't harm them, is what I'm getting from this. I don't know, it's so weird. And I think so far it's been a little bit confusing for me, I guess, this concept, because Mina, you know, she just kind of like immediately accepts this reality, I guess, is my issue with her. I don't know, like if I were her, I would have like a million questions. I'd be like, what do you mean? There's these like weird monster-like non-human creatures walking around the forest and like they won't harm us if they can see us. Like, what do you even mean? I just feel like her character just kind of immediately accepts the situation, and then she's just like there, you know, because right away she's like, oh, well, don't worry, like when me and my parrot leave or whatever, and then the woman is like, haha, you're so funny if you think that you're gonna leave here. And it's like, I feel like Mina's character, she just so readily accepts the fact that she's like never gonna be able to leave this place. I don't know, I just don't totally buy into that for some reason. I feel like so far the book has been a little bit slow for me, but I just got to a point in the last chapter that I just read, chapter 12, where like it finally felt like something was actually happening and shit was starting to hit the fan. And so I'm liking it a little bit more now. In this story, we not only follow from Mina's perspective, but we do get the perspective of some of the other people who are living at this place, like Daniel. And then we also do get Madeline's perspective, and her perspective is interesting because she was like the first one to ever find this shelter. But I just don't know if I can trust Madeline as a character. Like there's something about her that seems a little bit off. So I don't know if I like trust her perspective either, but I'm just like mainly confused on like what's happening. I'm like, are these creatures actually real, or is this like all a setup? I'm having trouble like visualizing things with this one, and I feel like so far the writing has been a little bit of a slow burn, but it's like introducing us to the characters very well. So I do feel like in a way I am getting attached to the characters, but I guess I'm just ready for like the plot to kind of pick up and like the creepiness to pick up. I'm just really curious, I guess, to see where this story's gonna go, because I'm like, is this just like a typical kind of like monster horror? Gosh, last night it was raining so hard and it was so windy that like the rain was like slamming into my window so loud that like I did not sleep very well last night, just because the rain was incredibly loud, and the wind, even with my windows like fully shut, the wind was like whistling so loud through the windows. I was like, ugh. But I think this afternoon I am going to try to go to the gym. I should go to the gym. It's been a minute since I've gone to the gym, so I think I'm going to go to the gym, continue listening to this one on audio. Hello, it is now the next afternoon. Last night, my sister, when I got home from the gym, she got this mac and cheese from Costco that was like this oven bake mac and cheese. Dude, it was the best oven mac and cheese I've ever had in my freaking life. But anyways, I wanted to update you because this afternoon, I finally finished reading The Watchers. I was gonna try finishing up this book last night, but you know, like I said yesterday, I was a little bit bored with this. And for some reason, I just didn't feel like I was in the mood to finish reading this book last night, so I waited until this afternoon. I actually had so much going on this morning. I ended up filming 2 videos this morning, and then I just took a walk, and while I was on my walk, I was finishing up the last of this on audio, and I'm sad that I didn't end up loving this one. I think it's probably gonna be around a 3-star for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some things that I really loved about this, but I think in general, I think it was just the writing style that didn't really work for me. I don't know how to explain this, but the book just felt a little bit too wordy, and it was driving me crazy. I just feel like there were so many times where it was just like dense, like paragraph after paragraph after paragraph, and I was just like, I don't need the book to give me this much information. I feel like this is the kind of book that for me, I think it would have worked a lot better as a novella, because I think this is a really interesting concept, but it just gets bogged down by so much shit that I don't think needs to be in here. I think this is also maybe a concept that would work better as a movie for me, so like I'm definitely curious to check out the movie, because I think there's some really cool and really creepy and unique ideas in this book, but it was specifically the writing style in this book that I thought it was boring me to tears. There would be like something really interesting and creepy that would happen, but then it would be like another 20 pages of like feeling kind of bored and like waiting for the next creepy thing to happen. There was one twist though that I like especially loved. It was kind of revealed towards the end of chapter 14, but it was a twist that I really loved because it reminded me of like other horror movies and like horror books that I've read in the past, that I really love that trope in horror books. So that's why I was like extra devastated that I didn't end up loving this one as much as I wanted to. I think with this book, you know, it's hard for me to rate this because I think the concept of this book is totally 5 stars. Like I can see why this would be 5 stars for so many people, because it's fascinating, it's unique, it's interesting, it's creepy, it's weird. Like I love all of those things about it, but it's specifically like the writing style and like the execution of the story that just wasn't my favorite. I just kept feeling like every time I was listening to this on audio, my mind kept wandering. Like I kept having to like go back a few seconds in the audiobook because I wasn't paying attention. And so like clearly the story was not pulling me in the way that I thought that it would. And the ending definitely had some really cool aspects as well. Like there were definitely some things in the ending that I personally did not see coming and I was really surprised by, but then there was also some things about the ending that I definitely saw coming. coming. And this is one that I totally understand people recommending this book to me and thinking I would give it 5 stars, because I thought I would give it 5 stars. You know, like, this is one of the only books for this video that I was really excited to read. It was already on my TBR. This is one that I was gonna read regardless of this video. And even though this book is only about like 310 pages long and the audiobook is only 9 hours, something about this story just felt so long. Like, some parts just really felt like it dragged for me. So that's unfortunate that like the book that I was the most excited to read ended up being the lowest rated so far. I mean, granted, it's a 3-star. Like, I still did enjoy this book. There was a lot about this book that I really did like, but like, I can't believe that this is the book that I've rated the lowest so far. Wow, do you guys know my taste better than I know my own taste? But anyways, the next book that I have to read is Convenience Store Woman, and this one is pretty short. It's only about 160, 170-ish pages, and I do have this one on audio as well for my library. I think this audiobook is like only 3 hours, so I'm gonna start listening to this one tonight. I don't think it'll take me too long to get through this book. Back with another update because I have just finished reading Convenience Store Woman. This one was such a quick read. Oh my goodness. I actually, for dinner tonight, I decided to make this bag that I got from Trader Joe's a while ago. And it was this like Korean beef fried rice with like kimchi in it. And oh my god, it was so good. I'm definitely gonna have to get that again. I also got this bag of gyozas that I was trying to make. And this was my first time ever trying to make them at home. So like, they didn't turn out exactly how I wanted them to. Because the trick with gyozas is that you're trying to make them kind of half steamed and half fried, but for some reason I think I might have added too much water or something, but they turned out to be a little bit too soggy. So like, I'll have to try it again, but it was really good flavor wise, and like that fried rice was incredible. But anyways, the whole time I was like making dinner and eating dinner, I just finished listening to this audiobook, Convenience Store Woman, and I really liked this. I think I'm probably gonna give this one 4 stars. I love in this story that we're following this woman named Kaiko who's living in Tokyo, and she's working in a convenience store, and she is like perfectly satisfied and like happy with her life being like a single woman in her late 30s working at a convenience store. But this book has a lot of commentary about how like, of course, that's like an unusual thing that people find hard to understand. There's a lot of talk in this book about how she doesn't fit into like society norms because she doesn't see herself getting married, like she doesn't care about relationships, and she doesn't care about like her job status either. And there's a lot of talk about how like you don't have any value in society unless you're married or if you have a career. And I really enjoyed this one because I do love reading books like this that have a character that doesn't really fit into society norms and kind of like goes against the grain and does something different. I just really connected with her character. Like, I just think if somebody's happy working at a convenience store for the rest of their lives, then just like let them be. You know, like not everybody has to have some crazy career in their lives. Not everybody needs to get married. And I feel like this novel was so entertaining, and it was so short and sweet because there's definitely a story in here about how she's trying to be more like normal in society. Like, she's trying to see if she can do these like normal things. And there's this guy that she kind of gets like involved with in a way in this story because she's trying to appear more normal. I'm like, dude, this guy was like the biggest freaking man-child that I've ever seen. And if anything, I feel like her time with this man really just proves that she is better off alone. But this was such a short and sweet book that I'm definitely going to be thinking about a lot. I feel like this book could have been 5 stars for me if the ending got like a little bit more unhinged, or if the ending just packed a little bit of a harder punch. But overall, I really enjoyed this one, and I'm so glad that I read it for this video because I honestly had never even heard of this book, so that's cool. But yeah, wow, these are the 5 books that I read for this video. I would say this was a massive success. If you want to check out the extended version of this video on my Patreon, where I also read Strange Sally Diamond and Curse of the Reaper, then I will have a link for my Patreon vlog down below where I read these 2 additional books. I can't wait to see how I end up feeling about these. But I would say this video was a massive success because I found 5 books that I really enjoyed. I think if I had to rank them in order order of like favorite to least favorite, I do think The Measure would probably be my favorite out of these. And then maybe The Good Part would be my second favorite. And I think I would do Convenience Store Woman next, and then The Haunting of Velkwood, and then The Watchers would be last, unfortunately. But these were all really entertaining. The only 5-star that I ended up finding was The Measure. The rest of these were all 4 stars, and then I did have one book that I ended up giving 3 stars. But I feel like overall, that is a pretty solid week of reading, and thank you so much for all of these recommendations, because a lot of these books are books that I would have never picked up on my own. And so that's really cool and really exciting that because of you, I found a few new favorites. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you've read any of these books, I would love to know your thoughts on these books as well. I would also love to know if you would like to see like a round 2 of this in the future, just because I did get so many book recommendations that I definitely have enough that I could make an entire part 2 to this coming up in the future. So let me know if you would like to see a round 2 and see if I find any more 5 stars doing it a second time, because now I know that I can definitely trust you guys. Like, you guys definitely know my taste, and I appreciate that. So thank you for your recommendations. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!